This morning I'm talking about the flame of love, taking the approach of love from the point of view of the teaching. Let me begin with the words of Master Moria. He says, "Verily, when one learns to inculcate or instill the emanations of feeling, one will see that precisely love, above all, attracts the fire of space. He who said love one another is a true yogi." Interesting, isn't it? So love. Love, whether human or divine, is considered to be sacred in the view of the mystic, the philosopher, and Agni yogi. In the ordinary life, we make this word mean affection for our surroundings, affection for our relatives, or for our beloved. But if you think more deeply about it, we can see that in reality it represents the power underlying everything in the cosmos. It's a pretty powerful statement, that love represents the power underlying everything in the cosmos. It doesn't say hatred, it doesn't say money, it doesn't say personal power. Love. It represents the power underlying everything in cosmos. So life is oneness. Love is oneness. We are either a part of that oneness, or we have allowed our ship to sail over to the retrogressive forces, taking our consciousness outside of the solar system. Agni Yoga instructs that love is a leading and creative principle. So these are ideas that we want to perhaps help to reevaluate our understanding of what love is. When we are a child, love means one thing. When we're a teenager, love is a whole different meaning. And then when we are in our 20s and 30s, it even takes on another different meaning. But the teaching doesn't give a lot of meanings for love. It gives a standard. So I was thinking how school, when our children are young and they enter kindergarten and first grade, wouldn't it be spectacular to have classes teaching them about love, showing them about love, how to teach them how to experience love in the true sense of the word, this power that's underlying everything in cosmos. To take them outside and show them Bambi. We have a lot of Bambis in Prescott. They run across the roads as we're going around the curve. Like, oh my gosh. And then you have the mommy and the fawns, and they're so beautiful. And you can see the love that mom has for her babies. So children are attracted to animals, most of them are. And that's how you can begin teaching them what love is, by taking care of that bunny rabbit, taking care of that deer. I've never had an opportunity to take care of a deer, but I can appreciate them, And it's to start them out in school learning about love. So by the time they reach their teen years, love is going to be something more than just physical. Yeah. So Agni Yoga is teaching us that love is a leading and creative principle. It means that love must be conscious. We must strive in the environment or energy of love. And love is also self-denying. It's like if we stick to this idea of children and you give them a pet, we hear these stories, no, you can't have a dog until you are ready to take care of it yourself. So already the child is thinking, oh, it's going to be a burden to have a dog. But self-denying means, let's take that puppy outside. Let's take that puppy and feed the puppy before you feed yourself. Let's go to the store and pick out the very best food possible for this little puppy, and that I have to use my allowance to buy that dog food for my puppy. See, this is the beginning steps of self-denying. The heart filled to the brim with love will be active and valiant and will expand to its capacity. Master M says, how greatly in need is humanity of the realization of the fire of love. So we all know about this word love. We learned about it, early on in life. But we sort of forget how to practice it when someone says something, let's say, confrontational to us, or they are reacting to something that we said, we react right back, letting your words be like the punch in the face. What happened then to this self-denying element of the practice of love? How greatly in need is humanity of the realization of the fire of love. Love is given to us by the cosmic law of existence. Helena Rourke wrote, people have forgotten, or rather do not want to admit, the great cosmic significance of love. She said the materialism of our age puts love on the level of a purely physiological function. But if the cosmic significance of love could be realized once more, people would see in love its highest function, the awakening of all the highest emotions and creative abilities. She said precisely this awakening is the chief purpose and the true keynote of love. There's a story in the East of Puran Bhagat. I had to work hard with that last word because I kept thinking Bhagat, Puran Bhagat. Okay, Puran is a folk hero of Punjab and was an ascetic and prince. Puran was once living in exile in the forest. While he was there, he developed a true love in his thought, feeling, and spirit. He then left his exile and returned to his country. The first thing he did was to sit in his garden, which had gone to ruin during his absence. He then approached his garden in the guise of a sage and began to water it with his little water bowl. The garden at once began to flourish. And in a short time, it became such a miracle of beauty that everyone in the city began to talk about it and say, this must be some important spiritual man, since the garden begins to grow, is now beginning to grow and flourish. In Punjabi, they say, or they believe, that the touch of the saints, the touch of a saint and sage and prophets makes things grow. People today throughout the world continue to believe in the touch and prayers of saints and sages. So even though few people are saints and sages, each of us has the capacity to love in its highest function. For example, you may be in a difficult relationship. Can you take your little water bowl, fill it with heartfelt love, and gradually and selflessly and without interruption, water that relationship with the depth of your heartfelt love? Love is communication, communion, and responsiveness. If you want your boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse to respond to you in love, you must be persistent in nourishing your beloved with your heartfelt love. Heartfelt love is a creative love, a divine love, a creative love and a divine love. It is not a list of do's and don'ts. It is not on a list of personal expectations. In nourishing your lover with heartfelt love, there is a mystery, which is that in giving the qualities of your heart, you are actually coming in contact with the heart of the sun. The heart, imagine that, the heart of the sun, the heart of the universe, which is the source of love, the outpouring love of God. It is the sun behind the central spiritual sun. It is through your heartfelt love that you contact the chalice of universal love. See, if we can remember this teaching about love, and in the beginning, think about it when you are engaging, when you're communicating, when you are experiencing good friends, family members, even strangers, to think about the chalice of universal love. How can we even see another human being as a stranger when we begin to consider this chalice of universal love, pouring it into the heart of your friends and family and strangers? The central concept in Sufism is love. Dervishes, the name given to initiates of Sufi orders, believe that love is a projection of the essence of God in the universe, that God yearns to recognize beauty, and as if one looks at a mirror to see oneself, in reality they are seeing God, or the self that is looking at itself. One day a friend was talking to me about smoking and how she really wanted to stop smoking, but not enough to quit. So I took her into her bathroom and I asked her to light up a cigarette. She did. And then I said, okay, start smoking that cigarette just like you normally do, but this time watch yourself in the mirror. Don't stop until you finish that cigarette. After that exercise, she totally stopped smoking, for she could not see anything beautiful in herself. The Sufis believe that everything is a reflection of God, of the almighty creator of the universe. And as such, the school of Sufism practices love by seeing the beauty inside the apparent ugly, and to open arms even to the most evil one. That's not easy to do. This infinite tolerance is expressed in the most beautiful way, perhaps by the famous Sufi philosopher and poet known as Rumi, who wrote, "Come, come, whoever you are, worshipper, wanderer, lover of leaving. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Though you have broken your vows and commitments 1,000 times, come, come again, come." About love, Rumi wrote, "All through eternity, beauty unveils his exquisite form. In the solitude of nothingness, he holds a mirror to his face and beholds his own beauty. He is the knower and the known, the seer and the seen. No eye but his own has ever looked upon this universe. His very quality finds an expression. Eternity becomes the verdant field of time and space. Love, the life-giving garden of this world, every branch and leaf and fruit reveals an aspect of his perfection. They express and give hint of his majesty. The rose gives tidings of his beauty. Whenever beauty looks, love is also there." Isn't that incredible? Whenever beauty looks, love is also there. Whenever beauty shows a rosy cheek, love lights her fire from that flame. When beauty dwells in the dark folds of night, love comes and finds a heart entangled in tresses. Beauty and love are as body and soul. Beauty is the mine, love is the diamond. They have together since the beginning of time, side by side, step by step. According to Sufism, love has two different aspects, halal and hamal. Each aspect of love, they believe, has a particular sphere. So they say the halal of love is the power of love, the power of love. It is the one power working through different channels. That's J-E-L-A-L. Its force is greater when it is unlimited, and less when it is limited. Hamal aspect of love is inspiration and intuition. Charity, generosity, kindness, affection, endurance, tolerance, patience, and beauty. All of these qualities are flames of love. They are aspects of the one great fire, love. Whether it is said God is love, or whatever name it is given to it, all the names are the names of God. And yet every form of love, every name for love, has its own particular capacity. It has a kind of action or form of its own. Again, I was thinking about the last, 20 years, this movement practicing tough love. I've always had a difficult time appreciating tough love. It just didn't fit into the mold of charity and generosity and kindness and affection and endurance and tolerance and patience and beauty. It just didn't. I've never really, read any statistics about it as to its success, the practice of its success. But I'm assuming it has its place, so there's another name of God, tough love. For us, though, love is kindness. Love is tolerance. Love is generosity. Love can be patience. And yet, in the end, it is all love. It is love's different manifestations in different directions, which distinguish themselves differently and have different purposes. Christ told the fishermen to come, and he would make them fishers of men. That is to say, as fishes come into your net, so your heart, full of love, will fill or will become a net which will attract every person to it. Let me read this again. As fishes come into your net, so your heart, full of love, will become a net which will attract every person into it. Rumi said, "All who sees me feel attracted to me, yet do not know what it is in me that attracts them." Is this not the secret of the whole of life? The attraction is love, the energy of what we call the cosmic heart, the cosmic law of existence. We think a flower is a temporary object. So soon does it change. And yet the human heart is liable to a quicker change than even a flower. Isn't that something? This, of course, is from the teaching. We think a flower is a temporary object, so soon does it change. And yet the human heart is liable to a quicker change than even the flower. This means that a person may be very good one moment and very kind. And the next moment, exactly the opposite. Calm one moment and then restless. At one time affectionate and another time cold. All according to the state of mind in which they happen to be in the moment. So the love cannot last if it is dependent on the moment. Such love is dependent and would sooner or later die. That is why so many hearts cannot keep the flame of love alive in them. So isn't this something? This is so profound. I can't begin to tell you. It's like when Torkim, our dear mentor, passed, and a month before he did, I talked with him and I said, "What can we do, as a group to carry on?" And he said, "Teach the children, create classes for the children." Well, in this country, you can't really teach children as a school without degrees and licenses and the state laws and regulations, and it became too problematic. But we did have classes for children within the church. And yet, as I go back and I think about all of those classes and all those children that we taught a lot of creativity, but we didn't really get to the core of love, teaching those little ones about love. So we'll have a chance to do it again later, maybe in another lifetime. But this is why so many hearts cannot keep the flame of love alive in them. In our prisoners program, you can tell by the many writings the hurt and the sense of betrayal and the sense of rejection that these men and women went through in their lives that ultimately now find themselves in prison. How can one in prison keep the flame of love in them? See, this is why we're in such a mess in the world. We don't know how to keep that flame of love alive in ourselves and in others. So this is what we can do as disciples. It's like people say, the esoteric teaching isn't practical. It's not real. Well, this is real. This is practical. The question, how can we keep the flame alive in us? Because if we can keep the flame alive, it's like what Rumi was writing in his poetry. The flame in our heart will ignite the flame in the heart of every other single being. And I also kind of think that a tree has a heart, and that roses have hearts, rose bushes, mountains. When that flame of love is ignited and burning brightly and radiating energy, no matter where you go, like those saints and sages, whatever they touch, that garden is going to grow. In time, those who have developed the ideal love within themselves by the aid of an object to love, whether it is another person, the teaching, the master, hierarchy, or Christ, transform their nature into a more and more loving one. In the East, there is a saying, a loving son is always a loving husband. This is a true philosophy. It teaches the fact that he who has known from the beginning of life what love means has laid the foundation of a whole life of being truly loving. A person who is faithful and kind to one friend can be kind to all. But when people pretend to love, they are kind to one and yet bitter to another. This shows that their hearts have some darkness. A person with a pure heart will know kindness, gentleness, sympathy, all aspects of love to everyone they meet. We would not have to worry about gun control in this country if we hired policemen who had the flame in their heart ignited. We've been barraged this year with so many people being killed, young ones being killed, whether accidental or not. Maybe this is too ideal. I don't think it is, because this is from the teaching, and it's saying true love is limitless. So rather than push that man down in the ground and hold him in what I call a chokehold with your knee on the neck, and people are yelling at him. He's dying, he cannot breathe. Where is the heart? And so you have these day after day after day after day of court meetings and trials and witnesses, doctors, medical people, and so forth. Where's the love? True love is limitless. Love progresses, it unfolds. Eastern people say that when someone loves another person intensely and does not care for anyone else, there will be some mishap there someday. This would be something to talk about at some point. There is always some breakdown, some danger waiting, some trouble in the future. when love is not allowed to flow freely. The highest love must be for the Most High. It belongs to Him and to, of course, to the Mother of the world. In its development, love should aim at that ideal. True love is life. In loving, we have more life, and we give more life because we are tuning in with the cosmic love. So we have this virtue called forgiveness. People do not understand what it means to forgive. They think, typically, if I forgive that person, then they're going to treat me better. They're going to see, I'm really wonderful that I can forgive their betrayal. I can forgive their insanity. I can forgive this and that. But the purpose of forgiving is to clear our heart from hatred and revenge and negative thinking and negative emotion. Forgiveness is a purifying agent for our anger, our negativity, our disappointment, our rejection. And in the end, it heals us. So we're no longer focused on the situation that required forgiveness. It is very interesting to notice that the most obedient servants of intellectuals are those who develop their mind, but not their heart. Those intellectuals encourage people by every means to develop their mind so that they can be useful for the intellectually minded people. A person becomes enslaved by other people through their mind. It's a lot to think about. Of course, when your mind and heart are developed simultaneously, then we not only become intuitive, we are also intelligent. Intuition is a heart quality. Intelligence is a mental quality. When both are united, we become guided by spiritual values. So here's a formula. Heart and mind develop simultaneously. I think maybe our school system unknowingly tried that, certainly during my generation of education, by providing music and art along with science and math. But now it's so difficult to find this in schools. They've pushed out the art, the music, to develop more of the intellect. Intuition is a heart quality. Intelligence is a mental quality. When both are united, then we become guided by spiritual values, and we develop the ability to introduce these values into humanity in acceptable ways. You can't be all love. You can't be, that flowery, hippie, happy, fun-loving, stupid person. You just kind of, they're cute, but they haven't built their knowledge. See what I'm saying? Their mind, they haven't developed their mind. And then you have those that, I grew up and have been saturated with intellectual people, and I guess so that I would learn, politics and science and things like that, where my passion was music and art. So I've had to learn. And what I learned about intellectuals is they do not have heart. They do not have heart. They're very cold. The child falls down. Pick yourself up. You need to be a man. See what I'm saying? So intuition and mind, heart and mind, the balance of intelligence and intuition. And then we can present these ideas to humanity in a way that's acceptable. Our light is going to penetrate the darkness and that way help people find their way toward the source of light. So I'm going to end with this story. There was a bishop who was greatly esteemed and who held a very high position in the church. One day the church officials said to him, Your Highness, there are 3 ignorant ascetics living on an island. Excuse me. You must go and teach them from the Bible because we must save them. So the bishop went to the island where they lived and indeed found that they were very ignorant people. But unknown to the bishop, their intuition, clairvoyance, and clairaudience was highly operative. He said to them, My children, you are living in ignorance. How do you pray to God? That was the Highness's question. How do you pray to God? And they all replied in one voice, We say, God, we are here and ready to help you. No, he said to them, that is wrong. You must say, God, help us. Have pity and mercy on us so that our sins evaporate. Okay, they answered, because he was a bishop. For 4 or 5 hours, the bishop taught them how to pray. Finally, they learned. So the bishop boarded a boat and set out for home. You know what's coming. In the meantime, oh, this is so cute. In the meantime, the 3 ascetics forgot the prayer that he had given to them. So they pondered on what to do. They said, we must go after the bishop in his boat and again ask him how to pray because we have forgotten. He told us that we were sinning by not knowing how to pray. So these 3 ignorant ascetics walked across the surface of the water after the boat and waving to the bishop from the water shouted, Please tell us the prayer again. We have forgotten it. And the bishop looked at them standing on the water and said, Go back to praying any way you want. Isn't that great? I just love that story. Anyway, thank you for listening this morning. Next week, we are going to be celebrating the full moon of Taurus, in other words, Vesic. So set aside your time to be with us next Sunday morning.